Hey everyone, welcome to a special episode of Holding the Line with Got Your Six, the PSA series. I'm Christina, and together with Peggy, we are going to bring you some special topics that are important, but don't need a whole pod to dissect. We're going to talk about HIPAA, ethics, patient care, and other areas specifically related to the first responder and military community. Again, this is not therapy. Call a professional. But without further ado, buckle up and let's get this thing started.
Everyone, welcome back to Holding the Line. We have a special guest today, Dr. Christina Rock. But we want to talk about, it's not weird for us.
So weird.
But today we have a special PSA episode, privacy and therapy, facts versus myth. So we want to talk about something that comes up all the time in this community. Privacy and therapy, what's true, what's not, why it actually matters for you. Therapy can be very powerful, whether you're dealing with stress, trauma, burnout, relationship issues, or just trying to stay functional under the pressure of your jobs. But a lot of people avoid it because they're afraid of what happens to their information. So let's break it down.
Yes.
Facts versus myth.
Yes,
Plain, honest terms. So myth number 1. Everything I say in therapy gets reported to my command, supervisor, or department.
I fucking hate this one so much. God, I hate this one. Absolutely not. That is, well, okay, let me back up. Not in private practice. I think that the reason why a lot of these myths exist is because they exist in real life on post. A lot of this stuff is coming from active duty, right? And so there are a lot of limitations. There are a lot of like confidentiality things for active duty service members who attend services on a military treatment facility or MTF. And it's in the regulations. It's in the DoD guidelines. I will forever call it the DoD. It is not the fucking Department of War. It is DoD, regardless. DoD guidelines very specifically state that there is no confidentiality. And so I think that belief is taken into private mental health practices. And I think that it's been ingrained in us as service members. And then depending on, if you're kind of like my generation of service member, very early on, we were told, don't report, don't go anywhere because we'll kick you out. And so there was, that stigma that was attached to it. And I think under the guidelines of like keeping, because we carry weapons, keeping everybody safe,
Yes.
It's kind of expanded to now we're just going to fucking tell on you, which I don't love. So therapists in private practice are, everybody is covered under HIPAA, right? So HIPAA is, and it's 2 A's. It's the Health Information Portability Accountability Act. Fucking makes my eye twitch when I see somebody with 2 P's and I'm like, you're a healthcare professional and you think it's HIPPA? What's the second P stand for? Fired.
Do not spell it wrong for the love of all that is holy.
Go to jail, directly to jail. Give me your license while you're on your way too. Like I think that should be like an unlicensable offense regardless. So HIPAA has some exceptions. So HIPAA says that mandated reporters are required to report for certain situations. We are legally bounded. Legally bound. You would think I've never been to school. We are legally bound under HIPAA to shut the fuck up. What happens in session stays in session. There are 3 exceptions. If a court order is signed by a judge, we have to look, your girl not going to jail. I'll tell the judge I don't want to talk about this, but your girl not going to jail. So I will give the judge whatever he wants. If we're in receipt of information that relates to current or ongoing child or elder abuse or the abuse of a protected person. And if you are in imminent danger of harming yourself or harming somebody else. Mm-hmm. In all 3 of those situations, we are still bound by confidentiality to only release what is absolutely necessary in that situation. So if Bob comes into my session and says, Christina, I'm going to kill myself, we're going to talk about why that might be a good idea, why that might not be a good idea. And if I think that Bob is going to leave my session and actually kill himself, I'm going to contact his emergency contact because I don't want the cops or the ambulance to show up. And I'm going to say, hey, Bob's spouse, Mary, I don't know, I'm making these names up, right? I'm going to need you to take your husband to the hospital. If Bob is a first responder and doesn't want to go to the hospital that he brings people to, we will find another hospital, right? I'm not calling Bob's boss. I'm not calling Bob's place of work. I'm not calling his supervisor, his friend group. I'm not posting that shit on social media. Bob will discreetly go to the emergency room where he will hopefully get the care that he needs and be returned back to my care. If you say no, I don't want to give you what Mary's phone number, or no, I will not be going to the hospital with my emergency contact, then unfortunately I do, because I'm required by law to make sure that happens with the assistance of the local police department and or an ambulance if that is necessary. Please don't make us do that. However, on military installations, and this is a DoD policy, and I'm going to pull it up so I can read it because I'm going to make sure we all are tracking the same shit, and it is petrifying. There are several instances where healthcare providers, it's called exigent circumstances, authorizing command notification. This is DODI 6490.08, published on September 6, 2023. I do not know if the current piece of shit who's in charge of the Department of War is changing anything. God, I hope not, unless it's for the better. But this is what the last most recent policy is, signed in September 6th of 2023. And we will post that information here for you guys. So healthcare providers, command notification by healthcare providers is prohibited for protected health information when a service member voluntarily requests mental health care or substance misuse education. So right off the bat, it's like you can't say anything unless the service member authorizes the notification or the disclosure is authorized for one of the exigent circumstances listed below. I'm not going to go through it. Y'all are hooked on phonics. Hopefully you can read. And if not, Adobe has a reader function that will read it to you. The first one is harm to self. So basically, this is the provider believes there's a serious risk of self harm, harm to others, serious risk of harm to others. This includes any disclosures concerning child abuse or domestic violence consistent with DODI 6400.06. Harm to mission. This one makes my goddamn eye twitch. The provider believes there is a serious risk of harm to a specific military operational mission. I was active duty for 10 years. I don't know what missions are current right now. And if you are feeling some type of way about shit, what's going to impact the mission? So what fucking right do I have to call up your commander and be like, oh no, Bob's pretty depressed. I think that might be a detriment to the mission. That makes my eye twitch. Special personnel. This specifically involves the Nuclear Weapons Personnel Reliability Program, which is described in DODI 5210.42. Inpatient care. So this is admitted or discharged, and this is basically just saying that like you have to notify the command that you're putting this service member inpatient, which I think is appropriate. Acute medical conditions interfering with duty. I don't. That is super vague. What does that fucking mean? I don't know. Problematic substance use treatment program. I don't know a single service member who does not engage in problematic substance use. Let's just put that shit out there. So everybody should be fucking notified to the command. Is that what they're saying? Stop. This is the provider has determined the service member requires treatment for a substance misuse disorder. I have also never heard them called I don't believe they're actually called substance misuse disorders.
No, but also the way that they use that, it's anybody that drinks like one time a week.
I when I go to the VA for my like care or whatever, there was one time they always do the same thing, right? They ask me like, do I drink? Do I smoke? When was my last use of tobacco? Even if I were to be like never, that's like them being like, when was your last menstrual cycle? Have you seen read my medical chart? Anyways, this one time I went in and this brand new nurse, and you could tell she was new, and she was like scared shitless to be at the VA working with veterans. Like, I don't know what possessed her to be there, but she's like shaking, right, while she's like asking me these questions. And she goes, do you drink alcohol? And I was like, I'm a veteran, so yeah. And she kind of like looks at me and she's like, how many drinks do you have in the course of a week? And I was like, I don't know, depends on the week. And she's just like looking at me. I'm like, you want a specific number? And I know she wants a specific number. Like, I do this. I just felt like kind of jerking her chain a little bit. I was like, I don't know. It depends. Like 2 to 3 glasses of wine, I guess. And she's like, a night? And I was like, whoa, you asked me in the course of a week. Why are we jumping? What? And I was like, no. No,
Wrong
no.
answer.
Right. And I could just see her like ready to type, right? Her fingers were fucking poised over the keyboard, ready to like send this bitch inpatient alcohol problem. Okay, anyways, tangent off. Service members that do not meet the criteria for mandatory enrolled substance misuse treatment may voluntarily receive behavioral care, and they're still going to report it to your command? I don't meet the criteria for, I don't know what the fuck a substance misuse treatment
Yeah.
is, but
If you're drinking once a week, apparently you're going to get
right.
tattled on.
If you're drinking, somebody's gonna tell on you. And even if you're not drinking and we can't treat you for you not drinking, we can then tell them if you decide that you want to go and get services, we're still gonna tell your command. Is what that says. Whatever. Command directed mental health evaluation, obviously, and this is the same as it is for like any in the community forensic or otherwise directed. And so this is kind of where we get into like the who's the client, who's the patient conversation. So if your command says, I think that Corporal Christina is mentally unstable, I'm requiring a command evaluation, then the command is now the client, not Christina. And so then the command gets the report, gets the evaluation. And then other special circumstances.
And those are?
That's okay. I will
Nice.
read it because I don't fucking know. This notification is based on other special circumstances in which proper execution of the military mission outweighs the interests served by avoiding notification as determined on a case by case basis by a healthcare provider or other authorized official of the medical treatment facility involved at the O6 or GS-15 civilian equivalent level or above, or a military medical treatment facility commanding officer at the O6 level or above. So that means that a colonel or a commander could be like, I don't know this fucking dude from a hole in the wall. I've never met him. I didn't even do his evaluation, but I guess this might look like it might be something important. Here. And here's what concerns me about this. The O6 and above community is so tiny, as it should be, right? Because we want to, as we get, up, there's less positions, and I get that. They all fucking know each other. They all hang out together. So if I'm a colonel and I'm drinking next to Colonel Tom, and Colonel Tom's like, hey, I got this guy, he's fucking weird. What do you know about him? I don't want him to go on this mission with me. Who says that I don't go, hey, Colonel Tom says this guy doesn't want to go on the mission with him. He's coming in for an evaluation. I'm going to tell Colonel Tom about it. I don't think he should go on the mission. Like, there's no protection. And I'm not assuming I'm not assuming that all service members are ratting on each other or trying to get under the table deals or anything shady is going on just because it happens. It absolutely happens. And so I want service members to be aware of that. Have I worked with some full birds, some lieutenant colonels, some majors, all the generals I worked with are douchebags, but O6 and below that were really fucking cool and on their game and really cared about like making sure their soldiers were clinically appropriately treated? Yes. Did they care about mental health? Yes. Were they looking to hang the soldier? No. I've also worked with some douchebags. So, and then there's the commander designation, and then it talks about commanders and how the commander should aim to interact and cooperate with the provider in a manner that does not breach confidentiality as described in this instruction. But then it basically goes on to say, like, however you feel like that's appropriate. So that's
Items.
DODI 6490.08.
Okay. But in Virginia, your therapy records are protected under state law
They
at
sure
private
are.
practice.
They sure are.
Your therapist cannot share your information with your
Sure
command,
can't.
your
Nope.
sheriff, your supervisor, your employer
Nope.
without your written permission, except in very, very limited emergency situations.
Correct.
Psychotherapy notes, those things that we write in front of y'all, the actual details of what you talk about have extra protection and are never shared. Your supervisor cannot call and check if you attend therapy. And if they call and try to check if you attend therapy, we might tell them to get fucked. Your chain of command does not get automatic access to your stuff. Your sessions are not reported just because you show up.
Unless you tell us to. And if you're like, hey, I want my command to know that I come see you so like they don't wonder where the fuck I am, every Wednesday at 2, we can provide documentation but that documentation has what you direct us to put on it.
Mhm.
So as long as it's not like, and I have had some service members who've been like, "You can put my diagnosis on it, that's fine." I've had others that were like, "I would rather you didn't," and we typically don't. It's like, "Bob comes to see me every Wednesday at 2. Please let him off of work for that period of time."
Myth number 2, going to therapy will ruin my career, cost me promotions, and get me kicked out. What do you have to say about that one?
Unfortunately, I think that there are some commanders
Mhm.
and sheriffs, police chiefs, fire
Mhm.
chiefs who still believe that.
It is, there is a duality to it.
Mhm.
For some, yes.
Um,
For some, no.
for some, no. I can say, and I know that this has mixed reviews. So I am, you guys know this, I work with the Stafford County Sheriff's Department on their peer support team and their critical incident stress management team. So I provide the confidentiality for that, which I think is that on the list of things we're going to talk about, or no? Okay, maybe I'll just sidestep real quick.
It-
So police departments, and I think, well, sheriff's departments, police departments, state troopers, anybody law enforcement, as well as first responders in terms of like fire departments, EMTs. It's not in every department. I wish it was. I think it would be lovely if it were, but it's a volunteer position that is done by somebody on the staff. So they don't get paid extra for it. It's like an additional duty. And when you already have 67,000 additional duties as defined or, given to you by your supervisor, you don't want to add any more. But peer support teams are peers supporting peers within police departments, fire departments. And so it's like if I'm having a rough day as a cop, I can go to one of my cop buddies and be like, "Hey man, I'm having a real bad day. I know that Deputy so and so and what a dick that dude is to drive with, or dispatcher so and so is such a pain in the ass and every time I ask for information, blah blah blah." And so that is protected because I am fully licensed and I provide their support. So if Deputy Bob goes to Deputy Steve and says, "I'm in the middle of a divorce and I hate my wife and I want to punch her in the face," Deputy Steve cannot get called to the stand and be forced to disclose what Deputy Bob told him. So peer support is under that HIP confidentiality. Critical incident stress management debriefs are after something really shitty happens. We get everybody who was involved, from dispatchers who first took the call to, like, we had an investigator who was like investigating, it was for an infant death, it was super sad, and the like CID investigator was there to kind of give us like that this is what we found and these were the results, which was really phenomenal. So it's voluntary and they show up and I'm just there to like provide extra support, but I'm also there for the confidentiality. So I say all that to say that I'm part of that, and the the sheriff right now is Sheriff Decatur, and he has pushed for this, and he has pushed for the grants for it, and he has been hugely supportive of that for the staff. Um, I've met with him. He, was pretty open to like, I want my deputies to get care. I want them to be okay. I want my dispatchers and my admin staff, and I want anybody that needs help and support to get that help and support. And so he's been super supportive of that. Not everybody is. So I'm blessed and honored that there are people that do that, but correct, not everybody is.
Yeah. And I think there is some misconceptions, especially like workman's comp is not the same as regular therapy
Yeah.
because it requires a higher level of documentation.
Hmm.
There's some funky laws with workman's comp that I
There
don't think
sure.
everybody is aware of because, like, if you have a pre existing diagnosis, it very well can go against you and they will use it against you. Workman's comp. Thank you
Yep.
for that.
Yep. Yep.
Just know that workman's comp is different.
Yes, workman's comp is different. And as our command directed. So this goes
Hmm.
back to the command directed. So if like Sheriff Decatur was like, "Deputy Bob, you have to go to therapy," that's very different. Same with like fitness for duty evaluations. And so if your command says there's something fucking weird here, I need you to go get evaluated, you no longer have confidentiality because now I got to write up an evaluation and tell whomever the person is, whoever the client is, what's in your evaluation. So please go to therapy before it gets to that point.
And for you active duty service members, therapy itself is not what is disqualifying.
Mm-mm. Nope.
That is the big misconception. Therapy itself is not what disqualifies you from serving.
Nope.
And they're not getting the notes from that.
They sure aren't.
It
Or your
is other,
diagnosis.
yeah, it is other things that are going into that. Just know that.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and I think that's super scary because there's this blanket of, and I think there's also this fear, right? Of like, if I go to therapy, I'm going to get diagnosed with
PTSD.
PTSD. And then that's going to mean I'm not deploying, which means they're going to start med board paperwork. And I get that. It doesn't mean that you're going to get diagnosed with PTSD.
Yeah.
So come to therapy.
Or even that, because it's once even you retire, I'm going to get a diagnosis of PTSD and it's going to get reported to my security clearance for like the
Yeah.
GS job that I have. And I can't
Yep.
do my GS job if I have a PTSD diagnosis.
No.
No.
The question that they ask on that form is so vague and I love it. Love it. So it is, does this individual have a mental health diagnosis? What is it? If so, does this individual's mental health create for them the risk that they would, and I don't remember the exact wording, but it's like, are they a danger to the country? Are they going to spill our secrets? That's what they ask. That's what they want to know. They don't care how fucking crazy you are. They just want to make sure you know to keep your goddamn mouth shut. Like,
your PTSD diagnosis is okay to have as a GS employee.
yes.
You can keep your security clearance.
You sure can. You sure can. I've had some people come see me with some very high clearances. And I've had investigators who have asked to interview me, right? And it's kind of the requirement. It's like he doesn't get his clearance if he doesn't interview you. And I remember the lady, the first time it happened, like I was super nervous, right? Because this guy did have a PTSD diagnosis and he had some issues with anger management. And I was like, oh, I don't know how this is going to go. She was like, is he going to tattle? And I was like, no. Is he stable? I'm like, yes. She's like, is he? Nope, we're good. Like, it was very much like, I just want to make sure that he's not going to do some wild shit like blow up the Pentagon. Nope, we're good. And she was like, done. And that was it. Like, they're trying to make their jobs easy too, right? The investigator does not want to go down some rabbit hole of like your entire therapy history. It's like, are you going to keep your secret shit secret?
Exactly.
That's all they want.
Here's another myth. If I use insurance, they get everything I talk about.
They sure don't.
Okay. The only one I can think of that may or may not, EAP.
Yeah.
EAP.
Yep. But then EAP doesn't even report to your employer. They can't. If you go through EAP, you get a number. It's like, I don't know, I'm making this up, right? Because I've never used it and we don't see that other end of EAP, but it's like, your number 1026. Right. So now 1026 gets reported to your employer of like, we had somebody with the number of 1026. So we're billing you for these sessions. They don't know who the fuck that is. You don't even have to go through your employer for EAP. You could just go directly through the insurance through EAP. So your employer has no idea who you are. And then EAP, if they want your notes, get your notes, but then they have to ask for them. And I've never had EAP ever ask me for them. So
exactly. But all insurance gets is your dates of service, your diagnosis codes. They do not receive your session notes, your personal details, what you actually talked about.
No, sure don't. And even if the chart is audited, they will look at notes, but that's a special auditor that's only doing it for insurance reimbursement purposes and does not communicate that stuff, nor does it ever get like reported to the insurance company. It's a third party that's also under HIPAA. And so they can't get like subpoenaed or asked for shit or anything like that. It's just like, it's this person that makes sure that we're documenting things properly. They're really just looking at how fucked up we are, not you.
And there has always been this thing for, I guess, active duty that, especially the higher up that you get, is they want to self-pay to avoid scrutiny, or this goes in my chart and this will be documented and everything. And we understand there is this privacy of going self-pay, but is it necessary?
No. Because I'm going to send your notes or I'm going to send your diagnosis and stuff to TRICARE, right? But like, let's say you're on the selection board for 1 star. Selection board doesn't call TRICARE and be like, hey guys, Does this guy have some diagnoses we should know about? Because TRICARE would tell him to get fucked, the same as they would tell anybody else to get fucked. So self-pay is not necessary.
We want to just encourage, especially our active duty, get help.
Yes.
Get help.
Yes.
Not to mention, it needs to be documented anyways because you're going to retire eventually and there's a VA claim happening.
Yeah. And those are getting more and more difficult. Like it is becoming, Hillary was telling me about a guy who's been seeing her and went to get his evaluation. And they were like, mental health, that's cute. 0% moving on.
Yeah, because y'all don't have anything documented either.
Mm-hmm.
Because you didn't reach out, you didn't get support.
Yep.
Get the support that you need.
Yep. And getting the support. So I think the biggest thing about it, yes, we want like get support, get that help, get the things that you need, get the documentation, right? All of that stuff. There's, even if you're going through the like getting out process, nobody's going to see your notes unless you ask us and sign a release for us to send them. So like you can come see us all day long. I am fucking waiting for some like high-ranking military motherfucker to call the office and be like, I'm requiring this person's notes. I will stop what I am doing to tell that person to go get fucked. Like I'm dying to have
Oh,
that
I can't
happen.
wait. I can't wait. It's going to be beautiful.
Yep. Yep. Because I know exactly Sophia's going to do her thing, and then that's not going to be enough. And then it's going to get elevated to Brittany/me. I'm just going to jump to the head of the line and be like, I'll take that phone call. And I will very gleefully tell that commander, that sheriff, that police chief, that fire chief, respectfully, you can go get fucked.
Because
Yep.
we're doing this today because privacy builds trust.
Yep.
Trust makes therapy work.
Yep.
You deserve space where you can talk honestly
Absolutely.
without fear, hidden of consequences. And look, we can't make this happen if y'all don't come here, trust us to make this work.
Yep.
Or that you don't fear that you are going to be in trouble for doing this.
Yeah. Yep. And there's so many misconceptions. This little PSA kind of, I think, is something we've been talking about doing. And we've kind of like collectively as a practice, this like routinely frustrates all of us. But it was a couple weeks ago at a peer support meeting where some things were talked about that I think from a like, it's different in the military than it is for cops, right? And so a guest speaker had come in and was telling us about like, this thing that, he had noticed being on active duty and he wanted to support military veterans and now was seeing there's a need for, first responders. So, was talking about it. And he had said like, unless you're self-pay, everybody knows everything. And I was like,
No.
that's not fucking true. Is that true on a military installation? Yes. Could I see that being true for him when he was on active duty seeking treatment at an MFT or MTF? Yes. Not the case if you're seeking it within the community. And so like that kind of like made all my eyes. That, and he didn't know what the 3 confidentiality limitations were. He was like, if you're going to hurt yourself or hurt somebody else, and I forgot what the others were, and I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? Let me see your license. Give me your license. This is like HIPAA with 2 Ps.
But know the difference. We're not NFLACs. We're not
No.
FAP. We
Nope.
are not installation providers
Nope.
that are reporting to commands.
Correct.
We are not under that system. Civilian providers do not fall under that.
Correct. And I want to touch on something too briefly with confidentiality in the VA, right? So the VA treats us. So if you get a referral, an authorization from community care to come see one of us, and this is across the board in any VA, community care to private practice in the VA system, the contract that the practice has to sign with the VA is that they get our notes. So they do in fact see, because they treat us as if we are an extension of the VA actual. So it would be like as if you were going to see Dr. Rock in, God, that's so fucking weird still, in a like VA hospital, right? So that my notes would be in the system, same as everybody could see. The VA, however, is also underneath confidentiality, and they can't say anything to your security clearance people or to your job or to anybody else. So your supervisor could call me and they're going to get the same response that they would if they called the VA itself.
Sorry.
Yeah. So yes, the VA does see our actual notes. They will see like the stuff that we document. Also, I don't write like I write detailed notes like just enough to get me paid, but I don't like I'm not
Right? Like
gonna
it's going to get read in court.
yeah, I write like it's gonna get read in court, and I'm not interested in putting all your personal shit up in there. If you come in and you tell me that you got into a fight with your boss and you want to stab him in the throat, I'm gonna put that clinician discussed and explored patients' emotions and conflict that arose from a workplace disturbance and discussed healthy ways to navigate conflict through communication skills. That's what's gonna go in your note. Because I'm not trying to get you locked up. I don't want to get locked up. I like to get paid.
Explored anger further.
Yes, exactly. Healthy coping mechanisms to express anger in healthy and appropriate ways. God.
Just know we want y'all to get help. We want y'all to
Yes.
be
Yes.
express yourselves in a calm, safe, and supportive environment. Sometimes not calm, but yeah.
Sometimes not calm. No, I have some pretty angry clients, but I love them. They come in and they're like, buckle up. I'm like, I'm here for it. Let's go.
Let's go.
I love it. I love it. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is like do it now before there's an issue. Because a lot of times, we'll get active duty, we'll get first responders who show up and they're like, this is my last, this is it. Like, my wife's going to leave me, or my husband's leaving me, or my kids don't speak to me anymore, or, I've been, whatever happened, right? I didn't get that job because I have an anger problem, or whatever it is, right? I'm under investigation. I had a guy several years ago who was under investigation through like their internal affairs department at the police department that he was working for because he got a little rough with a suspect. And he was like, in hindsight, like that was wrong, but I like couldn't stop myself and that's a problem. Come to us before that happens because then that further protects you, right, from us having to tell somebody something. But also like you deserve to feel good.
Yeah, you do not have to be in crisis
Mm-mm.
to get support.
No. No. Yeah, this whole topic makes my eye twitch. And then that reel that you sent me today about ICE coming in. Look, I dare a motherfucker.
We are in unprecedented times.
We are. We are. Nobody will come into my practice and demand anything
Mm-hmm.
because they can also get fucked. I don't care who the fuck they are. Don't do this. Don't play this game with me. So yeah, and I know that we all support that. I recognize that every private practice is going to be a little bit different. We all operate under the same HIPAA laws. We all operate like every private practice in Virginia is required to operate under the ethics code that applies to that specific like level of licensure, right? So like NASW does the social workers, ACA does the LPCs, APA does the psychologists, the AMA I think does psychiatrists. I'm not sure. That's another podcast. But like Sabina, for example, for meds, she's under the same HIPAA laws that we are. She's under the same ethical guidelines as we are because she's a medical provider. And so like they're not getting anything more from her than they would be from me or you or anybody else. And so the private practice that you go to is going to be under those same laws that govern everybody else at that same level. And our ethics codes are relatively the same. It's like don't say shit unless it's one of these three categories or unless you give us direction in writing to do so. And you can take that back at any time. Oh, by the way. So if you sign a form, like a lawyer says, I think, we need to see your medical records, right? You need to sign this form. And I get this form and I'm like, I don't think you want this. It's also my job to talk to you as the patient to say, I think this is a really dumb fucking idea. Or I think I understand what you're trying to do, let's think of other ways to do it other than releasing your notes. Because once that door is cracked open, it's all the fucking way open. And I also want people to understand that. Like, if you sign a release of information for notes that I have written or any clinician has written, and you do it today, but then 2 weeks from now you come in and you say some out-of-pocket shit, unless you've rescinded that request prior to you saying out-of-pocket shit, that stuff's releasable. So you can pull it back at any time. If you're like, wow, this is a really dumb idea, I don't want to do this, you get to go to whoever you filled that confidentiality form out and say, I'm rescinding my request in writing. And then you can do that. So please also understand that.
If anybody breaks confidentiality and you know about it, report them.
Please do. Go to the board. Go to the board. Tell the board. Tattle. Because that is an ethics violation. That is a federal law violation. That's a whole bag of worms that, yeah, please report your providers for doing sketchy shit. I know we're going to have other podcasts on providers who do sketchy shit.
You got one coming for me and you on ethics and morals.
Oh, God, I can't wait for that shit. I'm fucking ready. I might wear this shirt again. Probably try to do something else, but...
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, if your provider is fucked up and they're not working in your best interest, fire them, go get another provider. You get to do that. And you don't have to give a reason. Do I want a reason? If you're going to fire me, I want to know why you're firing me, right? Go find somebody that you trust.
Absolutely.
Did we cover all the bases?
I think we have. So please like, share, follow.
Yes.
Thanks for staying with us.
Yes. Also, please like and share, because Brittany gets really salty about it and we are tired of her yelling at all of us. So. Hey all, thanks for listening to our public service announcement. If you have questions about what we discussed, please feel free to hit us up on the socials, either via email at social@gotyoursixcounseling.net or on our Facebook or Instagram pages. Please also like, share, and follow our other podcast, Brittany's Side Piece, and our social media so we can continue to reach listeners just like you and continue to help out our community. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.